Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I am one of your hosts, Corey Deerigan. Alongside me, as always, is the cute dancing cat anime ornaments, Josh Finney.
Jesus Christ. Talk about a cursed sentence. That was absolutely cursed.
Oh, man.
I did not enjoy that.
Dude, when I saw those, because I haven't really been paying attention to the store or anything for a while, and I'm just like, I saw it on some social, and I was like, Josh, what the hell are these?
It's so bad. It's so bad. Like, of all the anime-themed things you could do, this is the worst.
I believe you told me they were Fox's Dream ornaments, actually.
Fox is very excited. He was very offended that they were not up in the Tower Casuals Awards for Best Fashion Set of the Year.
They missed.
Unironically, was very upset.
They missed the deadline.
They didn't, but I said that they did anyways. I definitely allowed a set that came out last Christmas to be nominated instead. Because I was not having it.
We love you,
It's
Fox.
bad. It's just a catastrophe over here. Let's be honest. Oh God, I hate you so much. I've been playing Little Kitty Big City, so I've got cats on the mind right now. It's kind of like the perfect I'm sick, and I'm just gonna play something really lazy that I don't have to really think about. On the couch. Great little I'm gonna blow through something in an afternoon type game. Probably really fun to play with kids. The jumping mechanics are a little bad, but it's like a $10 game, so what do you expect? Great Game Pass game.
Yeah, sounds like one.
I really enjoyed it. But man, here we are, last show of the year.
Last show of the year, Josh. What are you gonna do?
Go on vacation.
Jeez, yeah, you can go on vacation.
I'm not really going on vacation. We have 3 Christmases and a holiday party to get through in the next 5 days, which I'm not jazzed about.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
Any of that. Excuse me, it's actually 4 Christmases and a holiday party because I forgot about Chelsea's family. Oops. Love to forget about those people. And then I am actually going out of town next Thursday to go visit our good friend Ray. So it's become a bit of a tradition. The weekend after Christmas, we get together and me, him, and a couple friends. We get together and drink beer and drunkenly debate Game of the Year. So that'll be fun.
Nice.
I am prepared to ride in drunk off my ass to scream about why Metaphor ReFantazio should be Game of the Year 2024.
That's, you know what? That's fair. That's fair.
Which words I did not think I would be saying, honestly. I thought Final Fantasy had this in the bag all year long, and then, I played the prologue of Metaphor, and, we all know how that one went.
You did do that. And
I did do that. I also need to go save the Cade 6 robot in Astrobot. That was recently added. Very excited for that.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Cool. We love free challenge levels being added to games like this.
We sure do. Josh.
We sure do, Corey. We sure do.
I also didn't, as much as I had faith in Machine Games, I also didn't think Indiana Jones would be in my top games of the year either. I had really, I don't want to say concerns, but reservations, I guess would be the word, of it being in first person. Although I understand why they did that, so it wouldn't be compared to Uncharted and Tomb Raider and stuff like that. But also, man,
it's funny. I saw that a lot of people had those doubts all year, and I felt like I kind of existed in my own corner of the universe because I was like, I don't want a third person Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
I want this game to feel different. Tomb Raider and Uncharted are very clearly inspired by Indy. So, I don't want a game that plays like this. If I want to play those, I'm going to go play those. Indy also isn't it's funny because I didn't expect it to be as action-packed as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to an absurd degree, becoming, as somebody once told me, Nathan Drake is a mass murderer. We don't have that happening in this game, but because you don't kill anybody, you knock them out, even though you can definitely shoot them with the revolver. I'm choosing to believe that nobody actually dies in this game. I've definitely yeeted some people off a building, though, that I'm pretty sure are dead.
They are not coming back.
They are in the lobby.
They are bedridden, as they say.
Yeah, but hey, they're Nazis, so it's okay. I am really really enjoying Indiana Jones. I thought it would make my list. I did not think it would be as high on my list as it is.
Yeah.
Like if I had to decide my game of the year list right now, and I'm probably a little past the halfway point of Indy.
Hmm.
I have made it through the second major section. I'm trying to avoid spoilers for anybody who hasn't played that far, but I have just done the level shown in the summer showcase footage that we got in the Himalayas. I just recently did that, and that was a lot of fun. That is Indiana Jones at its absolute wildest.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that and what immediately follows that. So, gun to my head, end of the year. If I had to decide today, and where I'm pretty sure it's going to land in my final rankings, it's coming in at number 3.
Nice.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that. The more I've sat on Dragon Age has been bumped down to 4.
Aww.
I definitely thought Dragon Age was going to make a play for number 2 with how much I enjoyed it. But man, just the more I thought about Rebirth it's the best remake we've ever gotten of a game, and it's not even close. Like it is literally a brand new experience. So I personally have Rebirth at number 2 and Metaphor at number 1. So for everybody keeping track at home, it goes Metaphor, it goes Final Fantasy, it goes Indie, it goes Dragon Age. Number 5, still kind of debating that one. I don't know if it's going to end up being another game from Atlas, which would be Persona 3 Reload, or if it will be Astrobot, or even the Final Shape may even sneak in there. The more I think about, Final Shape, and it kind of leads me into the discussion I want to have. Despite my feelings about up and down seasonal content this year, the Final Shape was still so incredible. That was such a good note to end the saga on. Like, if that had been the end of Destiny, period, I would have had zero complaints.
Yeah.
If we went out on a note with the Final Shape, with Salvation's Edge, with Dual Destiny all being a part of this, and the Wildcard mission all being a part of it, I would have been okay if the final thing that we had in this franchise was us sitting out on the helm.
Yep.
I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, that would have been
zero complaints from me if that happens.
I almost wonder if Marathon was ready, if that they might have tried to do that. But
yeah, and I mean that's one of the things that like we'll never know, right? But just man, the way that I felt coming into this year, starting to kind of question how much more Destiny I was going to really be playing, how enthusiastic was I going to be about it. Like I don't think it's a big secret to anybody who listens to this show that my enthusiasm has declined since Season of the Wish. I would say I would pinpoint that as like the big inflection point for me. And a lot of that was because of how drawn out it was. I've always said that like I think that the cadence has to be better with how we get content, and the fact that it was this big ass season with nothing going on for like 3 months really affected my desire to play the game. It affected my content desire, like to make content on it. It's very difficult to do that when you don't have anything happening in game. And then Into the Light kind of comes along and saves us, which again I would not have expected. I cautioned everyone, do not expect anything from this, and I've never been happier to be wrong. I really enjoyed Into the Light. Judging by how y'all voted the Tower Casuals Awards, y'all enjoyed it too. And unfortunately, Echoes and Revenant haven't quite lived up to that for me.
Yeah.
But, we got a message from the development team, from the assistant game director last week that we're going to go over. Got me a bit optimistic going into 2025. More optimistic than I was at this point last year. I'll put it that way. Definitely more optimistic than I was last Christmas. Last Christmas, I was really pessimistic. We hadn't seen anything of the Final Shape yet, and I was just like, we just had the delay. We'd had a bunch of layoffs. Yeah, I'm like kind of seesawing back and forth, but I'm feeling good about Heresy. Of course, it's all going to look at what actually is Apollo.
Right.
I was really hoping we would get a peek at the Game Awards. It makes sense why we didn't see that. I'm now kind of pegging them revealing Apollo for the first time on the day that Heresy launches to keep in line with what they've done in the past. That would make sense.
I bet they tease it and then they'll be like, here's the date that we're going to reveal more.
Which I would be okay with. I think once the story for Revenant is wrapped up right after Christmas, then you can kind of start teasing that and build up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we already know we're getting a dungeon at the beginning of February. We're getting February 7th. Brand new dungeon is launching. So that is likely the week that we are seeing this content drop.
Mm-hmm.
Which, looking at my calendar, oh boy, that's going to be a really busy week for me because my partner's birthday is on Monday that week. So
you got some work to do, Josh.
I got some work to do. I've already told my team that I don't know if I will be doing the dungeon day. This may be the first day I don't do a dungeon on day one since dungeons started.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't know if I'll be doing a day one dungeon run, but all that aside, all the minutia aside, I do think there's some cause for some renewed hope going into 2025 for some of those who have, like me, who have kind of started to cut back on their Destiny time. I'm really, really optimistic about some of the things coming that we got in this post. But of course, before we get into too much of this, we got to talk about the elephant in the room.
The awards.
Nope, not that. We got to talk about the big elephant in the room. Tell me where you've heard this before. There's a lawsuit happening at Bungie.
What?
Nani? Yeah.
I was kind of hoping we would float past the bad news for a week. For once.
I was so hoping that we were. I'm gonna pull this up because I have opinions on this. It's kind of that meme. The worst person you know just made a good point. Chris Barrett. We talked about him earlier this year. The one-time director of Destiny 2, helmed the Forsaken expansion specifically, was fired back in March in wake of Me Too scandals. Was accused of, playing things like Truth and Dare, asking suggestive questions of female employees and things like that. He has filed a lawsuit against Sony and Bungie, alleging that they fired him to avoid giving him a $45 million payout he said he was entitled to. Barrett's lawsuit says, and this is coming from VentureBeat, Barrett's lawsuit says that defendants deliberately destroyed his reputation by falsely and publicly insinuating they had investigated Barrett and found he had engaged in sexual misconduct. Defendants did not care that none of it was true. They had blatant motivations for their brazen scheme, and that was the payout he said he was entitled to under his employer agreement. The lawsuit goes on to say that companies were motivated by a need to shift blame for and deflect attention away from their massive business failures, and to achieve those corporate objectives, they were willing to sacrifice Barrett. So it should be noted that this scandal all comes out. Bloomberg is the one that did the interviews with 8 different accusers. And I want to be really, really clear here. Bloomberg is not in the clickbait business. This is from Jason Schreier. This is about as close to like fact as you can get, I feel, in this industry. If Jason is investigating you and writing a piece on you, you fucked up somewhere. It's not a good thing to have a piece written about you by Jason Schreier that involves the words sexual misconduct.
It's not great, Bob.
It's not great at all. It's really, really, really terrible, actually.
Yeah.
Barrett was the director of Marathon at the time when he was quietly removed. He moved to Florida sometime last year with his wife. Gets replaced by Joe Ziegler, the former Valorant game director, if that tells you what direction they're taking the game, right? And then he gets fired a few months later. We were like, oh, well, we haven't really heard about him. It's like you saw him in the Vidoc, and that Vidoc, by the way, has been completely pulled down. You cannot watch that Vidoc anymore, which kind of speaks to the seriousness here. I want to read a little bit of what Barrett says here. He says he alleges he was told about an investigation into his behavior when he was on mental health leave. He alleges he attended the interview meeting with Sony's legal department, but was advised not to bring legal counsel, and said he was never shown any of the text messages from the accusers. He was never asked whether he ever engaged in inappropriate sexual contact, whether he ever sent inappropriate sexual or pornographic materials to a coworker. Never great when we have to use those words in a sentence. Or whether he ever retaliated against a coworker for rebuffing his advances or discriminated against a female colleague on the basis of sex. Her sex. Barrett was not asked those questions because he did not engage in and is not being accused of any such conduct, his lawsuit alleges. Less than 3 weeks after this interview, he was notified via Teams he had engaged in unspecified gross misconduct and would be terminated for cause. Yeah, they this is the creme de la creme of the lawsuit, I think. They completed their Machiavellian trifecta by providing wildly misleading statements to Bloomberg designed to deflect blame for Sony's poorly performing $3.6 billion acquisition of Bungie, delays in video game production by casting shade on Barrett for his role in Marathon, and shift blame for their own public Me Too problems by falsely insinuating the accusations of severe misconduct had been directed at Barrett when they had not. It also alleges that the acquisition of Bungie has been a complete disaster.
Yikes.
Defendants could save $45 million and pin the Marathon issues on Barrett in one fell swoop. Basically says that the struggles at Bungie should not be a surprise. We've been over this. This is old context at this point, right? They were in trouble financially. They were going to need to be acquired or basically think about shutting down. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem. There was something else in here that I wanted to see. He has been the subject of harassment and public ridicule, has lost friends and professional opportunities, and seen relationships with family strained. His lifelong dream of launching his own video game company has been crushed, his lawsuit says. Barrett notes through his lawsuit, colorful language and off-color jokes were often common in the early days of Bungie. Employees frequently and openly referred to things as gay. Sexual mom jokes and racist jokes were commonplace. Nudity was not prohibited. Bungie personnel engaged in moonings in the office. And so you know what a mooning is. Practice that has continued to some degree over the years. When Bungie breaks off from Microsoft, he got a payout for that. Believe it or not, he received a $200,000 bonus for his role on Halo 3, and then when they spun out of Microsoft, he received founder share equivalent to approximately 2.5% of Bungie's company. Had 336,000 shares of preferred stock and 48,000 shares of common stock. All these vested over the coming decade, which is why they are worth so much. Barrett has denied any role in the behavior that's been noted. Alleges in the lawsuit he witnessed a very senior Bungie executive texting him and others sexually suggestive material, including lewd photographs, text about his sex life, including graphic depictions of sexual acts, and text concerning the appearance of women working for the studio. He also alleges that the same senior Bungie executive frequently showed up for work drunk, attending group meetings while clearly intoxicated, and engaged in sexual misconduct at Bungie-sponsored events, and said one of Bungie's founding members made frequent sexist and racist comments in group settings. Would absolutely kill to know who that one is. For example, and I am reading exactly what is in this lawsuit. This is the lawsuit's words. This is not my words. This is not Tower Casual's words. I want to be real clear about that right off the bat. In a leadership meeting, said executive joked that a woman's place is barefoot and pregnant. Barrett says he reprimanded him over email but faced no consequences. During an interview, a potential hire told Barrett that Bungie should name a Destiny faction the rotten insert C word here. Barrett reported that the comment to the group evaluating candidate and insisted Bungie not hire them. Leadership hired them anyways. Lawsuit said a female office administrator shared explicit stories about her sexual exploits, and at least one Bungie employee frequently exposed himself in the office, including pulling down his pants in the middle of the office and pressing his exposed butt against glass overlooking the entire studio.
Oh my gosh, how old are they? 12? Jeez.
That's kind of what I'm wondering. Basically, this play, and I listen. This is all here. This is, it's more things that we already know about at that point. That phrase, a broken clock is right twice a day? It's kind of what we're seeing here. Like, yeah, we knew that the Me Too problems were really bad at this studio. You were kind of proving their point in this lawsuit, brother. Yeah. You are denying that you did anything, but you're like, oh, but it was really rampant at the fucking studio. So it's like, okay, so we are not giving moral high ground points here because you are finally saying something. Where were you when these stories were breaking publicly and you were not speaking up and defending members of your team who were coming forward with accusations of sexual misconduct, of sexual words being thrown around towards them, slurs, racial epitaphs, things like that were going on at the studio. Where were you publicly during all that? Oh, you weren't around. You were heads down working, is what you were doing.
Right.
It seems to me like an executive would actually say something. Now, if I'm going to throw one person under the bus, I'm going to throw everybody under the bus. Anybody who does not speak up about this at their studio and then later only speaks up because they felt they were cheated out of $45 million is an actual piece of shit.
Yeah.
There's no way around that. You're an actual piece of shit if you're only coming forward because you were cheated out of $45 million, or so you say.
Right.
I have no sympathy for somebody who still, despite all this, walked away with like $35 million. I have absolutely zero sympathy for you.
Right.
I do not give a shit. You have enough to comfortably live the rest of your life and for your descendants to inherit generational wealth. I have no sympathy.
Nope.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to choose to believe somebody who I think I can count on my hands the amount of time, on one hand, the amount of times Jason has gotten a story actually wrong or had to publish a retraction. This is not one of those times.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is not one of those times. And
Yeah.
it's just every time somebody's accused of something, it's always the same. It's always the same playbook. They all play out of the same playbook. You know, oh, they're all liars. Yes, I'm sure a ton of people got together to ruin your entire life, and that those people accused you solely so Bungie could avoid paying you money. When there's smoke, there's fire, and there was a lot of fucking smoke here.
Yeah, there's quite some smoke. There's no sugarcoating this, right? I mean, it's
no.
And like, I know I can hear the excuses and everything from people like,
Yep.
oh, it was,
Yep.
it was the mid 2000s. It was the, 2010s. It was a different time. It doesn't matter, like it's still wrong. Like,
yeah, it was still fucked up. It's still wrong. And hey, sure. We can say all day long things have changed, right?
Own your mistakes. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
proud of some of the things that I've said or done, but like, you have to own it and say I'm sorry that I did this and this was wrong. And
it's sort of the accusations against him are fairly recent ones too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
So
I know.
But him trying to deflect the blame off of him by saying, well, that's the way the studio's always been. Great, you were in a leadership position for how many years and you didn't try to change the culture?
Yeah.
You're just pointing the finger at people above you, and ultimately what this is a failure of leadership by Pete Parsons. Let's just be totally honest. Pete Parsons and Jason Jones failed this studio. Yeah. They failed the people who work there. They failed minorities. They failed women. Okay, we've been saying this since Rebecca reported on it for the first time for IGN.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is like the third Christmas that we've had to have this discussion on our last show of the year, I feel.
Yeah.
That's not a great track record.
No, because last year was like the layoffs and then other things going on. And
last year was the layoffs. The year before that, or I think it was the year before that, is when that huge HR piece came out.
Oh, Jesus Christ, you're right.
That IGN reported on, that Rebecca specifically reported on. By the way, Rebecca is maybe the second best reporter in the industry at this shit. I don't know at what point does somebody have to speak up not anonymously. I mean, listen, I love guys like DMG. They clearly stand for what's right. They speak about it all the time. Great. I need to see somebody in senior leadership at that studio start taking some responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see people who worked with Barrett specifically come out and refute his claims and be like, yeah, no, he actually did this shit.
Right. I
understand, and I'm sure it's more complicated than I'm making it sound.
I'm sure it is.
There's legal avenues to go through, but holy shit, it should not be this hard for people who don't work there anymore. Why don't you guys say something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw. I think there have been some ex-employees go off recently on Twitter too about stuff that happened at the studio or like how they were treated. Yeah. I'm sure you know which ones. I'm not going to name any names, but it's been interesting to read and follow up to the point where, like, Josh, Tower Casuals is a Bungie creator. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but also, like, I don't know if I want to support. I mean, I don't want to support the actions that are happening, but it's getting to the point where I don't know if, supporting the studio like that at all is even worth it.
Yeah, we thought they had cleaned up a lot of these issues. And then we come to find out, part of the reason the studio isn't getting cleaned out is because people in senior leadership are just they're doing it too.
Yeah.
They're doing shit too. They're not showing themselves the door.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to dismiss Barrett tells me a couple of things. One, it tells me Sony got involved. Because I'm going to be honest, it's pretty clear to me that Pete Parsons, who is one of the only people above him at that, or was one of the only people above him at that studio at the time, clearly was not interested in doing anything. I have a feeling that they were told by Sony, you were going to get rid of this guy. Like, if complaints are reaching Sony's ears, okay. And notice, like, that was around that time Sony starts taking more of a vested interest in running Bungie. We had the second round of layoffs a few months later.
Mm-hmm.
And they're essentially absorbed into SIE at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this was the trigger for that, but it certainly was a contributing factor. Not to the layoffs. I want to be really clear, not to the layoffs, but into absorbing Bungie into SIE to have direct control over what's happening there.
Yeah.
To get rid of the board, who pretty clearly is not doing anything, and HR also seems to not be doing their job. Of course, I don't know how much power you have as HR to a game director. You know, to go up against a guy who literally is worth apparently $70 million.
Yeah, but that there,
and you make $50K a year.
Yeah, but that also is a problem.
That is a huge problem. You're exactly right.
So, I mean, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, I don't know where you go from here if you're Bungie and you're seeing all this. Like, it's becoming more and more clear to me that Bungie, we just you gotta kind of gut it. And I almost wonder if, there's always things that we're gonna wonder about. Did Joe Blackburn, leave because of things like this? Not that he did anything, obviously.
No.
But did he leave because he was tired of seeing inaction? Like, Joe's been at the studio since The Taken King. Like, did he leave because of inaction?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've wondered that since the rumors of the layoffs were happening.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, we've had that conversation before. So, not to be on a downer note, but that is something that needs to be brought up, needs to be addressed. It's a $45 million lawsuit essentially, and about the former game director suing the shit out of Bungie and Sony.
Mm-hmm.
And Bungie also doesn't have their kick-ass lawyer anymore because, hey, they decided he was expendable. So, great job on that one, everybody.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah, great fucking job. All around, just great job.
Great job. That means bad job in sarcasticity.
That means very bad job in sarcasm. All right, let's shift into a little bit of TWAB from last week. Of course, we're doing the every other week. There's no TWAB this week. It's Christmas, essentially. Just a couple of quick notes to hit on here. I'm sure you guys have read a lot of this at this point, but new dungeon drops February 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's 11 and 12 o'clock for the Central and East Coasts, respectfully. There will be a World's First Dungeon race. It'll follow the same rules as Vespers Host. Very happy that we're getting this in February. I'm not sure if that is the end of if that's the beginning of I guess that is the end of the season, or the beginning of the new season, excuse me. Yeah. Because looking at the dates here, Iron Banner, you have 2 final weeks of it coming January 14th, and then on January 31st, Trials will return for one final time before Heresy starts. It'll be the final week the Prophet will be available as a post-match reward, which I don't think anybody really cares about this gun. There is a Revenant Act 3 and Armor Balance update post in here as well. They are posting this now because guess what? This is dropping on January 7th. And then these updates are dropping on the 14th. The bulk of the update is aimed at addressing a couple of overperforming weapon types in the Crucible and buffing a number of underperforming options as well. I'm gonna go through these real quickly and just see what we've see what we kind of got here. Heavy burst sidearms were preemptively nerfed before Into the Light went live, but they have now reverted some of those. Not all the way, but partially. Body shot damage has been increased from 30 to 33 damage, and crit hit damage has been upped from 40 to 52.8. SMGs have seen their magazine size increased by approximately 10%, which I'm very excited about because I don't feel like I can shred things with an SMG right now. Rapid fire auto rifles. Body damage has been upped by 0.1 from 13.5 to 13.6, and same with crit hit damage from 23 to 23.1. High impact pulse rifles have been nerfed just a tiny bit. Body shot damage has been reduced by half a point, and then crit hit damage has been reduced by almost a full point, 39.6 to 38.7, and the ADS fall off scalar has also been nerfed a little bit. This is because guess what? They're really oppressive. Lightweight scout rifles. We've increased body shot damage from 32 to 38 and increased crit hit damage from 64 to 64.6. I'm pretty excited about that. I like using lightweight scout rifles, but man, it is among the slowest time to kill in the entire game. So very, very interested in seeing that. And then Skulking Wolf, which is the Iron Banner origin trait, will now activate in PvE and makes enemies slightly less accurate in targeting you when active, such as the effect that Manticore has while you're airborne. Very excited for that. I felt like this is not really great. It's obviously, it's basically worth nothing in PvE. So interested in that. I like that. They'll upgrade the perk string, description string in the future. And then target lock. It doesn't need to be nerfed anymore, essentially. So they're gonna keep monitoring this in the Crucible, but they've removed the custom tuning for it. So interested to see if that gets out of hand, especially with guns that have Volt Shot, for example. Iclos SMG, anybody? That lightning spreading can be a bitch. Also incandescent. So a little interested to see how this goes. I don't even know off the top of my head if you can get target lock on Iclos. I don't think you can, but I digress. Exotic weapons. Graviton Lance. Graviton Lance is arguably the strongest primary weapon in the entire game when viewed across both PvE and PvP. While it is not proving to be too problematic in high skill Crucible lobbies, it is dominating lower and middle skill lobbies to an unhealthy degree. Yes, it is. As well as seeing extremely high uptime and potency in all levels of PvE content. As such, it needs to be brought more in line for both sandboxes. The RPM has been reduced back to 300 RPM, which is the previous one to it. They were bringing it a little bit closer to the heavy burst pulse rifles. RPM reduction will effectively be a small DPS nerf, while in Crucible it will move the weapon back to how it was performing pre-episode Revenant. What else do we have? I think that's all that we've really got. Excuse me. We have one change to Stoicism, the spirit of Alpha Lupi. Healing Impulse was tuned around Barricade, which is significantly less uptime than Thruster. Now that Alpha Lupi can work on Thruster, we need to branch the effect's strength accordingly. So reduced Heal Impulse when using Thruster to 30 HP that can roll over into shields. All in all, good, solid changes just for right there at the beginning of the new episode. So, can't be too upset about that.
Nope.
Corey, there's really not a whole lot here. I'm going to be completely honest with you. We didn't get a lot this year.
Yeah.
Which...
I mean, it's understandable.
Or not this year, but end of the year. Yeah, it's we're coming up on the end of the year. Everybody's kind of in holiday mode once you get past Thanksgiving, and especially once they didn't drop an Apollo trailer or even a new Marathon trailer. That one surprised me a little. No Marathon trailer.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised about the Marathon one.
Especially considering the presence that Sony had at this show. I thought for sure we would have seen something.
Yeah, but it would have gotten overshadowed by Marathons or by a
Intergalactic
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it would got overshadowed by Intergalactic and the Helldivers 2 update also.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I'm back in on Helldivers. And I haven't played since launch, but I'm very back in on this.
And not to mention the other games that were shown off, like The Witcher or Elden Ring. What was it called? Night Rain, right?
Yeah, Elden Ring, Night Rain, Witcher 4. God, Game Awards were actually really good this year.
Yeah, the announcements were really good.
The announcements were good. I thought that the awards, we still need more awards presented on stage instead of in the Jeff Keighley Russian roulette round off to the side.
Yeah, let me tell you, Josh, there's no off to the side awards here at the Tower Casual Awards.
Not at the Tower Casual Awards or at the Bossies, which we are hard at work on.
Yes. We actually just wrapped recording some segments before we started this show. Josh.
We did. Corey and I have been in the lab.
In the lab,
as they say, working on that. Tune into the Bossies January 16th when it goes live. That's going to be a lot of fun. We've got our beloved Destiny up for some very nice awards this year.
Yep. Not Game
And
of the Year though, everybody.
yeah,
No.
your boy is presenting a few awards, namely, of course, is it any surprise to anybody, for anime and for best Xbox Game of the Year.
Josh,
So
don't be humble. You are an official host of this thing.
I am in fact an official host.
You are opening a segment. You are closing a segment. You are in the intro and the outro. You're in a lot.
Talking about layoffs.
Yeah.
I am very excited for this. This has been the culmination of a lot of really hard work by Corey over the last couple of months. I've loved seeing it come together, and it's going to be a great time. It's going to be a really fun time. I can't wait to see this go live. I'm very proud of this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really awesome. We got a lot of cool guests, a lot of cool trailers to show, Josh. A lot of cool...
yeah, wink, wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. One of them might have to do with this show.
Yeah, you guys might want to pull up on the 16th.
Yeah, and also, shout out to Stephanie for helping me write all the scripts and getting everything together too.
For sure.
She's
a rock star, man.
Yeah, she's something. I don't know where we would be without her either. So, yeah, shout out to Stephanie, and I'm ready for the Bossies, Josh. I'm ready for the editing process to be over, but we have all the footage already. It just needs put together now. So
it does need to be put together, and we're just waiting on the final whatchamacallits. We're waiting on the final votes.
Yep.
To be tallied, and you are able to vote for those. We posted the ballot in General Games in the Discord.
Yes, we did.
So
vote.
It is there.
Go vote.
Go vote. You know what you guys did vote in this week? The Tower Casuals Awards 2024.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a fun thing that I threw together to get an idea of where we were as a community, feeling about this year. Overwhelmingly, you guys said that Into the Light was the best season of the year. 75% of you said that Into the Light was the best season of the year.
A couple that were wrong.
The other 25% said that Wish was the best. Obviously, nobody voted for Echoes or Revenant, and I can't blame you. The best holy shit moment of the year, we had two that tied. We had two that tied here, both with 41.7% of the vote. And that is the sacrifice of Cade and Ghost, as well as Guardians Assemble. We really liked that final mission, didn't we?
Oh my gosh, it was
amazing. We really, really, really liked Excision.
It was amazing, dude. Yeah. By the way, the Cade sacrifice and Ghosts up for Moment of the Year for the Bossies.
Moment of the Year at the Bossies.
Go vote, because this is the community that's going to vote on Destiny stuff. So please help us.
Some other funny breakdowns I saw here. Just a couple of votes each. The Tragedy of Maya Sundaresh got voted, and also the Targe's Death. Which admittedly I thought would take a little bit more, but man, it's really hard to beat those top two moments.
It's true.
You guys said for Activity of the Year, this was basically split between two events, Pantheon and Onslaught. Not Onslaught, Dual Destiny. Dual Destiny took 50% of this. Pantheon took about 42%, and for some reason, a couple of y'all said Onslaught. Nobody voted for Challenge of the Elders, so you did good.
Yeah.
NPC of the Year goes to Cade 6, with Crow and Failsafe also netting about a quarter of the vote each.
Yeah, Failsafe getting up there, man.
Failsafe getting up there, finally getting respect, because Failsafe, thanks to her inclusion in episode Echoes, was not a nominee for the Pete Parsons I slashed the budget underloved character of the year. You guys felt that everybody was kind of equally underloved. Drifter takes this with 33.3%. 25% goes to our favorite raid vendor in the tower that we all forget and still has Red War lines, Hawthorne, and Elsie Bray, who is freezing to death on Europa still. Nimbus also got a little bit of love here. No love for Petra. Petra got no love here.
Dang.
She just kind of stood around, and, well, that makes a lot of sense. Story arc of the year was also pretty well divided. About a third of you said that Cade's final adventure was the best story arc. Can't say I necessarily disagree. A quarter of you said Maya. A quarter of you said Zavala's storyline, and the rest of you said Crow becoming the Vanguard. Crow becoming the Vanguard and Cade's final adventures kind of go together.
Yeah,
but I felt that we needed to make the distinction clear there. Best encounter or best fight, excuse me. We have best fight and we have best encounter. Best fight overwhelmingly, The Witness with 42% of the vote for Salvation's Edge. Witness and Excision followed up with 25%. 16% of you all said Rolk and Pantheon, double Rolks. And somebody out there likes the Corrupted Puppeteer and those fucks from Dual Destiny. Exotic mission of the year, no surprise. Overwhelmingly, Dual Destiny runs away with this. A couple of you liked Encore, and I'm not judging, okay? But I really thought this was going to be the one that it was just 100% for the exact same thing. We did not have a clean sweep in any category, I should note. This and Best Season were the closest we had to a full wipe. Best Loot Grind Loop. 50% of you guys said Original Onslaught. Cannot disagree with that. That was my personal pick. A lot of you really liked that one glorious 10-day stretch of the Garden of Salvation cheese. And then the rest of you were like, hey, I really like farming out Pantheon. I can't say I disagree on Pantheon either. I really loved Pantheon for getting all those raid red borders. Best exotic of the year non-class item. That no surprise to me. I guess it was a little bit of a surprise. Choir of One took this with 50%, and the other three each took 16.7% with Ergosum, Red Death, and Alathenum. I actually really thought that Red Death was going to make a bigger push here. But hey, I honestly, of these four, I agree with Choir of One personally. Yeah. Best new perk, you guys decided it was going to come down to closing time, or not closing time, heal clip and jolting feedback. Got those. Envious Arsenal came in third. The others were just kind of negligible. Best new exotic of the year. I actually should take that back. Best new exotic of the year. 75% of you said Speaker Sight. Cannot disagree with that at all. Cannot disagree.
That's the Warlock helmet.
That is the Warlock healing helmet. That's the Speaker's mask. Yeah, that thing is clutch in the endgame. Speaking of endgame, your favorite endgame activity was Pantheon with 50%. 33% of you guys said Vesper's Host. Can't say I disagree. Was a little surprised that Salvation's Edge and Grandmaster Excision tied. Really surprised on that one. I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I actually really thought that that this one was gonna come down to 3, but not the ones that it did. Best, that was better than expected moment. This one went to Into the Light with half of the vote. 25% of you said Salvation's Edge Raid Race. Loved it. It was a great raid race. Excision's launch got some votes. I laughed at that. And Destiny Rising is actually good, question mark. Favorite title, you guys said this was Godslayer. Godslayer gets 50%. Legend gets 25% here. And then a couple of y'all still voted for Slayer Baron and Iconoclast. The Lance Reddick Award for Best Voice Acting Performance overwhelmingly goes to Nathan Fillion as Cade Six with 66.7% of the vote. Brett Dalton. This one shocked me. Brett Dalton comes in second place as the Witness.
Dang.
I was very surprised. I really thought this was going to come down to him and Keith David.
I mean, he was great.
He really was. I have long loved Brett Dalton going back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, very excited. If you don't know who he played on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Grant Ward. Maybe the best character to come out of that show. At least my personal favorite, especially in the early seasons. Loot pool of the year, you guys overwhelmingly decided that this was Into the Light, followed by Vesper's Host. Poor Revenant, not even getting a single vote here. Revenant and Nolan North received no votes in their categories. R.I.P. Encounter of the year, again, this is another one that I really thought was just going to be a big old bagel. Verity wins this with 50%. Verity is, of course, the Shapes encounter from Salvation's Edge. It is the absolute best raid encounter they've ever done. It is the most creative. You will not change my mind on this. 25% goes to the Witness and Salvation's Edge. 16% of you guys said, oops, double rolks. And then some poor souls voted for the Corrupted Puppeteer. The Fenchurch bust out those Silver Bucks Award for the best armor set. Much to Fox's chagrin, the Doki Doki set was not eligible. He has messaged me to express his disappointment in this. 41.7% of you guys said the Witcher armor set, which is the one I wasn't going to allow, but I decided to anyways. Vesper's Host made this really close, though. Vesper's Host is the only one that really put up a challenge here with 33%. And we had a couple votes each for the new Dawning set, the Into the Light Parade armor, and the Echoes Season Pass ornaments. Really shocked that Dungeons and Dragons got no votes here. That was my personal pick. I loved the D&D set. Big fan of that. The Lord Shaxx, I found this in the back of the closet, but I'm still keeping your Raise Lighter award for the best reprised legendary weapon of the year. I want to note some discontent from the community on this one. No, I did not put Midnight Coup on here. That was an oversight on my part. But also, basically everyone who wrote in to give their nominees said Chroma Rush. So that's why Chroma Rush made it on here. Otherwise, Mountaintop is here out of love to our speedrunners. And guess what? All of you who complained about Mountaintop won this. Mountaintop won this. 33% of you said Mountaintop. 25% of you said Chroma Rush. And then we had some votes for Falling Guillotine, Edge Transit, and Hammerhead. My beloved Bygones. Shut out. But I love Bygones. I still love it. The Master Rahul, well, I have to give you something award for the least favorite reprised weapon. This goes to the Uzum 44, but we did have a handful of responses each for Patron of Lost Causes and Breakneck. The Nerd Generalist award. We're getting this community awards now. For the Love of the Traveler, Stock Fucking Strafing in the Well award for Clumsy Guardians. You guys pretty overwhelmingly decided this was going to come down to Titan and Fox. Titan ultimately takes this with 50%. Fox comes in second with 33%. Ronnie and I still got votes, and I'm a little offended by this. Still a little offended. I want names. The Nadiki Get Your Ass Over Here Community Award for Community Fire Team member who is not a moderator in the server. Everybody got votes here. I want to be really clear. Everybody got votes here. Nadiki does win the namesake of his award with over half of the votes. Whoever voted for option 1, I'm laughing really hard. I accidentally left a blank option there, and some of you voted for it. So shout out to people who voted for option 1.
Shout out, they say.
The Dealers Award for Community Sherpa of the Year. It should come as absolutely no surprise who wins this one with a whopping 60% of the vote here. You know him. You love him. He's probably helped you through the end game at some point. The one and only Ronnie wins Community Sherpa of the Year. Should be no surprise to anybody. A1 Johnny's Ergo Sum Emporium. You guys' pick for best Ergo Sum role as picked from John's Secret Stash. Overwhelmingly Risk Runner, which is the Arc Conductor frame with the wave frame on it, with 3/4 of the vote here. Our Bastard of the Year award. I want you guys to know the nominees here were Joasis, Fickrel, the level 49 Tormentor, and OG Onslaught, and the Crickets in My Air Vent. I actually really was not sure how this was going to go. The level 49 Tormentor clearly gave some of us more sleepless nights than we care to admit with over half the votes. I'm honored by how many of you were as annoyed by the Crickets in My Air Vent as I was. I want you guys to know my pick was Joe. The Jiggly Panda collaboration of the year. Of course, it's not the end of the year without us acknowledging one of our favorite people to write into the show. You know them, you love them. Jiggly Panda, always asking us how we feel about these collaborations. Again, pretty evenly divided here. Nobody liked Street Fighter. I want to be really clear. Not a single soul liked Street Fighter here. But Dungeons and Dragons wins this, despite not getting a single vote for the Tess Everest and Fenchurch Armor of the Year award. Dungeons and Dragons takes this with 42%. Mass Effect comes in with 25, and The Witcher comes in with a third of this. And that leads us to our final award, which is the Derek Zoolander Fashionista Award for the most fashionable Guardian. I let you guys vote for 2 people here. I don't know if you guys actually did. I think you did if I count this up. I also left a blank option on here, so shout out to the person who voted on blank option. I really appreciate you. Crayon Titan 4, otherwise known as Titan in our Discord, has won not only the clumsiest Guardian, the Nerd Generalist Award for clumsiest Guardian, but has also won, I guess you could wear this award, the award for Fashionista of the Year. Should come as no surprise if you look at some of the armors they've had over the year. A whopping 42% of the vote went to Titan on this one. So shout out there. I was really happy to see that one. And that's going to do it for our awards. This was just a little fun thing that we decided to do for the Discord server. Thank you to everybody who participated. Tell me if you like this or not. Maybe when you do one of these in the future, I will think this out a little bit more than like a week and a half before I decide it's going to be, we need you to turn it in. Maybe I'll start soliciting opinions much further in advance instead of waiting until, well, the end. Man,
Yeah.
it has been a year. It has not been a week. It has been a year.
It's been something.
It's been something else, buddy. Man, it's been a good year though. It's been an overall like a good, I would say, somewhat successful year, personally and professionally for both of us. I've really enjoyed that. It's been a good time. It's been a good time. It's been a good year. I'm excited to see what the new year brings. I think that we all need to hit the reset button a little bit. I'm really hoping that Revenant, in terms of the game, I hope Revenant ends on a really strong note, and I really, 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 really hope that Heresy hits. I need Heresy to hit. I'm hoping that Apollo hits when it comes out. I think there's so much potential here still in this game. And I just really want to see that. I know that some of y'all feel that I've been a little too negative this year towards the game. And
no,
listen, guys, I've always told you I'm going to be just straight up about it. That I'm going to be just unflinchingly honest when it comes to this game. That if I don't think it's in a good place, I'm just going to fucking say it. I have no issues with just saying it. I have no issues with coming out and speaking my mind. But, I'm not going to I'm not going to spoon feed you some bullshit either. If I'm not having a good time, I'm going to say that. And I'm taking my own advice, and I'm going to use the next couple weeks to kind of recharge and hopefully come in more energized when we get the next batch of story content. I hope the exotic mission slaps. That's always my hope, is that these missions are fun. They're good. And I'm excited. I'm excited for a new dungeon. We're getting a big exotic mission, and we're getting a dungeon within the first 5 weeks of the year. That's exciting to me. That's really exciting to me. So I'm hoping they nail it here. I'm excited to start hearing more about Frontiers. And on that note, we do have a studio note. An end of the year 2024 developer update from Robbie Stevens, who is the assistant game director on Destiny 2. Oh boy. There are some things to talk about here.
Jeez.
So first thing that he notes is the core game, portal, activities, modifiers, and next-gen gear that will be the backbone in Destiny are coming online. We're playtesting every week and I'm playing multiple summits in the coming months with members of the Destiny community to provide feedback and help us hone our executions. They are sourcing a handful of gameplay specialists who will be sourced from the community, will be in the trenches with the dev team playtesting new core game progression and gameplay systems, as well as Codename Apollo's campaign and post-game. These specialists will provide us with the kind of perspective you can only get from dedicated players. Little iffy on that one. One of the things that's come out in all the Chris Barrett stuff in the last few weeks has been him saying that Bungie would hire fans of their games so they could get away with paying them less. This was not encouraging to read, and then hearing that comment like 2 days later. Little concerned here. Little concerned, but ultimately I would rather it be people that have played the game rather than you trying to outsource this, because the QA has been disastrous. For those who have not been following along, the Dawning did not get off to a great start. The event card was made free first off, which I misinterpreted and did not go back and claim when I could have. And when they revoked that and announced they were going to take it away from everybody, the entire event broke. So the Dawning kind of busted. They've been having to auto-complete triumphs, complete people's ovens. This whole event is just borked at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in a great place overall, which is frustrating. And so let's talk about some of the things here. We've got a few areas. Breaking Bones. Destiny has a long history of reinventing itself in response to community feedback and the expectations of our players. The North Star, however, remains unchanged. We strive to build worlds that inspire friendship and to create amazing gaming experiences that have left an indelible mark on people's lives. We tried new things with episodes. Some of those changes have been well received by the community, like the Vespers Host Dungeon Race. The team found the right mix of challenge and link to elevate the dungeon to the bar set by contest raids. Other changes were more rocky. Weapon crafting removed the joy of earning a random weapon, that feeling that any drop could matter, so we introduced enhanceable weapons. The Revenant tonics were meant to provide loot agency in lieu of crafting and give you a fresh way to chase gear, but we missed the mark with tonic timers and not guaranteeing a weapon from the active tonic. Yeah, you did. So we're in the process of developing changes to make tonics last longer. That was something that came out just the other day on December 17th. Those changes are already live. You can read about those on Bungie.net. We see how these changes are putting pressure on your vault. So we're in the early stages of planning long-term changes to relieve vault pressure that will start manifesting later in the year of Codename Frontiers. Not a great sign that you didn't already have this in the works when you knew you were going to take away weapon crafting for seasonal weapons. Just going to say it right now. Not super great to me. I feel like that's the stuff that should always be craftable. I've had this debate with a few members of our community. I feel that this should always be a thing, that seasonal weapons should be craftable no matter what. If you're going to put a restriction on anything, honestly, I would rather see a restriction on dungeon and raid weapons personally. But I also just think that crafting should be across the board. I am more likely to enjoy the game if I know that I am eventually going to be able to get the roll that I want on this gun.
Right.
You know, I'm willing to grind for it. I'm not willing to do it when it should just be a black hole. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've run the first encounter of Vespers trying to get that goddamn attrition warps grenade launcher and cannot get it to drop for the life of me. It just kind of sucks the fun out of the room for me, honestly. I mean, but that's the thing you sign up for when you go to a raid or a dungeon. So I'm not too upset about that. I am more upset about it with seasonal activities. In response to the desirability of seasonal weapons, the short term for Heresy, we developed a new tier of seasonal weapon dubbed the Heretical Arsenal. Oh boy, like I said, I felt we learned the wrong lessons about the loot from Into the Light. More details on these weapons as we approach Heresy, but rest assured it will be clear when they hit your inventory they're worth inspecting. These changes are stepping stones to help us elevate our long-term plans to create a deeper weapon chase in Frontiers. We tried a new content cadence with acts. While there are new activities, loot, and quests rolling out at a consistent cadence, that change created lulls in our gameplay calendar at the end of an episode. Well, it created lulls across the entire episode, if we're being honest. So for the final weeks of Revenant, there will be a special pursuit similar to Riven's Wishes, where you can complete quests to choose from a list of new and desirable rewards. This has already been data mined. I want to be really clear. This was like the bento box thing that we heard about a week or two ago, right? This is my deduction is that, and it's not like fucking Sherlock Holmes over here. This is pretty obvious that that's what this is. They are some of the rewards of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I will be personal. If Cataphract really is in that pool, that is what I'm grinding for and nothing else. But okay, things like that are kind of cool. We should probably have them like every season or episode, but okay. We've also been evaluating feedback from Revenant's content rollout, and we've made changes to Heresy to strike a better balance between everything dropping on day one of an act versus meaningful reasons to return throughout the episode. We're taking an approach where the vast majority of activities content will be available the first day, and subsequent weeks will add or evolve the content based on the story. We're also adjusting the act rollout schedule so there's less downtime in the gameplay calendar later in the episode. Heresy will be the last season in the episode format. The team has taken some big swings to create new activities that evolve throughout the episode and create big secrets to uncover on the Dreadnought. I mean, this is kind of the standard stuff that I feel we hear every year of content. Every time we get a state of the game, I feel that's basically what this is, a mini state of the game. I feel like we hear this exact same line every single year. And I haven't really seen that change. If anything, I think episodes are a worse version of what seasons are now that we've got basically 2 of the 3 underneath our belt. I'm glad they're abandoning this, but having a 6-month season also doesn't really inspire a lot on that front for me. So I have questions about that. Also, is all this content just going to go away like right away, like seasonal content when Apollo launches? Because that seems like kind of a waste if you're going to bring the whole Dreadnought back.
Mm-hmm.
As Revenant approaches its final act, I apologize that I'm reading basically all of this word for word, but feel it's kind of important for us to break it down. As Revenant approaches the final act, you'll delve into a Dracula's castle-inspired fortress. I want to take a moment to reflect on some of the feedback we've received around Echoes and Revenant's story, as well as the hunger for purpose and meaning in a post-Witness world. The first 2 episodes had a tight focus, establishing Maya Sundaresh and the Echo of Command as a force to be reckoned with. Fikrul reemerged with the power to create an undead army for one last showdown with the Guardian and his dad. We set out to deliver on narrative promises set up in the Light and Dark saga that we couldn't tie off in the final shape. The Kell of Kells, the Hive siblings, showcasing the effect the Witness had on the world, and more. By prioritizing satisfying conclusions, we want to create a path for bold new storylines in the saga to come. In Heresy, we're widening the focus of the story to the Hive Pantheon and ancient Eldaric forces that shape the universe. The events of Heresy close the door on Light and Dark and act as a prologue to Apollo, where the Guardian's purpose in the next saga starts to take focus. So I don't like the pat on the back here with the story. I'm going to be honest. Mm-hmm. I did like establishing Maya Sundaresh as a threat to be reckoned with, but that didn't tie off anything to me from Light and Dark. Instead, that set up a new mystery for us to tackle in a future season. Mm-hmm. Whereas, I mean, we have been screaming for years now, we need to have a Vex-focused expansion. The Vex, how many fucking Hive seasons and expansions have we had at this point for Hive and Taken? How many? I would wager like 2/3 of it has been around them, and most of the rest has been based around the Fallen. I'm just so sick of this. I would love for the Hive to just go away for like 2-3 years in game. And I think they need to. I don't love this. There are 3 story beats left for this season, and they're all going to be done through the exotic mission, presumably. Uh-huh. And they're saying that they want to tie off the Kell of Kells here. I have seen little to no movement on that front in Revenant. I don't know how you're going to do that. Yes, we know Aramis is free. Yes, we know that Fikrul is still out there, and that Mithrax is slowly being taken over by the Spirit of Nezarec. I don't know how you tie all that off with just a little bit of story left. Like, there's been almost basically nothing of consequence has happened. Uh-huh. Skolas is back. We got to deal with that now too. Like, is that what you call tying off loose ends? That's bringing back a pretty big one.
Right.
So, and I've also like long said that if we're going to deal with enemies like Fikrul and you're going to kill them off, it has to be in an exotic mission, a dungeon, or a raid. Uh-huh. It has to be in content that's going to stay in the game. It cannot be in a little seasonal activity.
Right.
So I don't know how I feel about this. Okay, you're going to tie off the Hive siblings in fucking Heresy? That's how you're going to tie off Xivu Arath and Savathun? Press X to doubt on that one, buddy. I don't think you're dealing with both of them in a seasonal storyline. That just seems so... But at the same time, I don't want another major expansion around these characters. I know Xivu Arath hasn't gotten one, but holy shit, we dealt with Oryx. Savathun has been a threat either in the background or the foreground since fucking Forsaken. Even before then, Vanilla D2, you had Savathun's song as the strike. And then she starts taking a bigger role and, with Duel and Karu and the corruption of the Dreaming City and all this and that. And like, holy shit, we've been dealing with Savathun for like 6 years now.
Yep.
I'm getting a little tired of it. I felt like that story was tied off real nicely at the end of the Witch Queen. Imaru ain't hanging out with her anymore. Like, and then, we brought her back just to kill her again, which was great, by the way.
Right.
Really enjoyed that from Eris. So, okay, you're going to tie that off. Like, why was this not a bigger focus? Like, you're really going to tell me we couldn't find room to tie this off with the final shape?
Right.
You're going to tell me we couldn't find room to do this?
Right.
It feels really bad when major storylines like that, specifically that and Mithrax, are being relegated to seasonal storylines.
Yep.
Those are big beats. We couldn't get, I know we got some beats with Mithrax in the post game of Final Shape, but like we couldn't have dealt with that then.
Right.
Like there was no sign of any of this. Yeah, only if you read the lore did you know. There's no sign in game of any of this until all of a sudden you're bombarded with this.
Mm-hmm.
The helm gets blown up, which you needed an excuse to not have the helm anymore. But man, I really wanted to go into this not complaining, and I'm just getting mad all over again because it just feels like, oh, you are scrambling because you laid off most of your story team.
Right.
One of whom just got hired at CD Projekt Red, by the way, to be a lead quest designer. Robert Brooks got hired to be a lead quest designer for the Cyberpunk sequel. So let that one sink in for a moment, everybody.
That's being worked on at the Boston studio, right? Part of it, at least.
Yeah, I think Molasses Flood is helping with it, but it is primarily... Yeah, I guess part of it is, but it is going to be primarily done by the Warsaw studio. They're going to run both games in tandem. The Boston studio is primarily working on a Witcher spin-off game.
Oh, who's making the remake of the first one?
Somebody else.
Saber?
Maybe? Question mark?
Because they did the Switch port. I wonder. I don't know. Whatever. Not important.
It might be them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, not important.
It's not important, he says, everybody.
There's a lot of Witcher and Cyberpunk coming. That's all we know.
There really is a lot of Witcher and Cyberpunk coming, and it's still all like years and years away.
I actually re-downloaded The Witcher 3 because that trailer was really cool.
I need to get to The Witcher 3 at one of these points.
Oh my gosh.
That is one of my bigger sins, is that I have not played The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
Well. All the way.
Yeah.
It was not the game for me. Sadly.
That's fair. I just I always get excited to play it, and then I finally play it for a couple hours. I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah. Oh boy. So that's kind of the state of the game from the assistant game director. Again, like I'm not reading all this to shit on him, but I do really think the last 6 months have pretty severely missed the mark. And then obviously, like you had to do what you had to do. If you hadn't delayed the final shape, it wouldn't have been as good as it was.
Right.
We talked at length several episodes back about what was added in that time frame, and among that was the Verity encounter. You don't get into the light without that happening. You don't get excision without that happening. You don't get the dread. There's a lot of dual destiny, exotic class items. All that was developed in that time. So, yeah. I would happily go to a longer development cycle for this game if you could just figure out how to nail seasonal content. But it doesn't seem like we're going to do that going forward. We're going to go to 2 smaller expansions a year and 2 seasons. And I really need to see what this looks like on paper before I get too excited or too pessimistic about this. Right now, I'm just like kind of in like hover mode of, well, keeping an eye on this. I really hope this is good.
Yeah, that's fair though.
Like, and I just want to be really clear to everybody, because I mean, I know there is complaints that sometimes we're too negative on this, and it's just like, man, when I look at what the state of the game is right now compared to what it was like, 2 years ago at this time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2 years ago also wasn't great. You had Plunder 2 years ago. So you had Plunder, and then you went into Seraph, which was awesome. And it's hailed as one of the best seasons. And you had the down of, You had the down of Lightfall, and which I still don't think is as bad as everybody made it out to be, but it certainly wasn't a high.
Mm-hmm.
You had Defiance, which wasn't great, but you had Deep and Witch, which I thought were both very strong overall.
Yeah.
And then you end on Wish, which I actually don't think Wish is that bad. It's just that it's so drawn out that there was 4 months with nothing to do. Previous times we had the 30th anniversary and we had all the raids that were being sunset for reasons. So everybody was wanting to raid for like those 5 or 6 months. It's the healthiest raid community's ever been in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So there are definitely questions to be asked going forward about where the franchise goes. I'm interested to see where it goes. I remain invested in this game and in this story, but I definitely haven't felt like my time has been respected outside of like a 3.5 month time swath this year, which is really into the light through like the first half of episode Echoes. I feel like my time hasn't really been super respected.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that that's a super unpopular opinion. I don't think I don't think it's wrong to voice those opinions. I think we waited way too long to put certain things in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that ever since Plunder, it's kind of been an up and down, rocky relationship with seasons and major releases. Unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
you can even go back to Witch Queen. I mean, I think that we really liked it, but you could even tell that summer Haunted is the first time that I started feeling it. That okay, we got to change up the seasonal structure. This was really cool, like the first 2 or 3 times you did it, and then you just kept doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't get changed up. We had like 3 out of 4 seasons in a row had Battlegrounds as the seasonal activity. And that, let me tell you something, Battlegrounds does not hold the attention. Things like Coil do, and unfortunately, that's the kind of innovation we needed like a year and a half before it came along. We needed that kind of innovation in Plunder,
Mm-hmm.
and not when we got it, unfortunately.
Right.
So this isn't, please don't take this as like complaining. It's just we've seen how good seasonal content can be. We've seen how good expansion content can be, and we need that. And unfortunately, you're trying to do it now with less resources than ever. I am still super interested in this new campaign. Taking inspiration from Metroidvanias, yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all the way here for it. I'm very excited to see a Destiny game like that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's gonna change things up quite a bit if they do it correctly. So.
which it has to. These campaigns have to be replayable.
Yeah. Definitely do.
So, I don't know. Do we have any final thoughts on this state of the game?
I mean, I just think the game is what it is right now, and whether it had anything to do with the layoffs or the staff changes or leadership changes, what have you, like the game
There's
is where it's
probably
at.
about like 3 or 4 things we can point to,
Right.
honestly.
But I mean, the point is that the game is where it's at, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like, hopefully these interesting campaign changes and things that they're trying are gonna put Destiny on a trajectory of positivity instead of
Yeah.
always wondering like, is this the year it's going to be good or is this the year it's going to be dog shit? You know what I mean? Like,
We really did sink into a cycle of that, though. Like every other year, it just seems to be bad because every other year they realize, oh, our last expansion was bad. We need to give more time to make this one.
right,
So
right,
it just like it's been a cycle ever since Vanilla D2 released. Like it released and it wasn't great. Forsaken was incredible, and then Shadowkeep was pretty bad. Beyond Light was okay. Witch Queen fucking slapped.
right.
Lightfall was okay. Final Shape is the best thing that they've made since Halo 3.
Yeah,
Like, what do you do? So where do we, where do you think Apollo lands? Where do you think that whatever Behemoth? I think that's the code name of the second one. Like, where do these land? I still want to know what the pricing plan looks like for this. With that, with seasons, like, is this going to be? You going to charge me another $100 for a full year of content? Because that's kind of rough if it's 2 smaller expansions and 2 seasons and that's it.
right.
Like the pricing model has to adjust, it has to change, and unfortunately we talk about this all the time, there's more competition than ever. So I think it's a few factors. You've got competition, you've got people who are getting priced out of games. Gaming is an expensive hobby and it's only going to get more expensive, by the way.
Right.
Whether tech to play the games, tariffs, rising development costs across the industry. Like, it is unsustainable for studios to keep up the level of money they're pumping in. And it's a live service game, so you're always pumping money into this. There are no off years for you. There are no off content cycles. You have to keep pumping money in and paying everybody to be on this just grueling schedule. So I'm hoping that transitioning to that is going to help in that regard a little bit. Maybe stop stressing people out as much. I don't know if it's going to help. We'll see. You had 2 massive rounds of layoffs, which did not help anybody. Joe Blackburn leaves at the beginning of the year, or left at the beginning of the year, I guess I should say. He left. That was really rough on everybody. Like, I cannot tell you how many, at the time, current and former Bungie employees I saw that when Joe left, they were like, oh, this is actually really terrible.
Right.
Like, if Joe is leaving, something bad is happening. Like, this dude fights for the players constantly.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like where we started.
That's the inflection point for me.
Yeah.
I'll always remember last year when we got, God, it was like a year and a half ago now, about 18 months ago. We get that Final Shape reveal after Gamescom.
Right.
We get that, the traditional time that they show it off at the end of August. And almost immediately, the mark was missed. And we get that impromptu video from him in his office reading out of his notebook. And I thought that was one of the most genuine things that he's ever done. And then we come to find out that he hadn't even talked to the team about making new multiplayer maps.
Right.
And that's how they found out. But they were happy to do it because they were happy to be asked to do it. It was just a lot of work to get done in a few months.
Right.
And we should never be in a position where that's happening. But it had been years since we had gotten maps at that point. We'd gotten, one map, and it was horribly received.
Right.
So I don't know how you, and then, I mean, God, there's scandal after scandal that has happened there. You've got, you had the buyout by Sony, which we all thought was a great move. I mean, when it happened, you and I had nothing but praises to sing, like, okay, hey, cool. The best first party team in the industry is acquiring the only studio that has seemed to nail a live service.
Right.
And we've seen how that's turned out. Like, apparently they highly endorsed Concord, and look how that one turned out. They advised that, Last of Us Factions gets canceled. I don't know if Factions would have been a success. People swear it would have been. I think it would have had an audience for about a month and then fallen off. Right. Like most multiplayer games these days.
Right.
And Jason's talked about that at length. I really encourage people reading Jason Schreier's work. I'll never stop advocating to read his exposés and his pieces. But he had a piece about Naughty Dog's future. I think it was like year and a half ago at this point, after Factions didn't show up at the big live service blowout that Sony did in May 2023. And basically said, yeah, there was a talk had at Naughty Dog where they had to decide, are we going to be a studio that does live service? Because the cost is enormous. We have to constantly be working on it. And it's going to be really hard for us to ship single player games and do live service at the same time. Like, it's not possible.
Right.
You have to shift in today's day and age. And I think they ultimately made the right decision. Naughty Dog's one of the best studios in the world. They made the right decision there. If you're giving me the choice between Factions and a brand new IP, as we just saw in Intergalactic, I'm going to take the new IP every time. I'm going to take the single player Naughty Dog game every single time.
Right.
Let your studios like Haven do it. Let your partners like Arrowhead do it.
Right.
And Bungie and things like that. Like, it's just, it feels like every time that we get some good news about this game or about the studio, it's kind of like I'm watching Team Xbox in a lot of ways. It's like they set out all these rakes and then do a speed run for how quickly they can step on one.
Right.
Whether knowingly or unknowingly. Like, at this point, these two companies might as well be sponsored by fucking Acme. I feel like I'm watching a Wile E. Coyote skit at times, and that's not a compliment. That's actually, like, horrible. So I am hopeful. I am optimistic that this year goes better. I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be here talking about this game. I'm going to be just real frank with y'all. I'm still going to be here talking about it. I'm hoping that, taking a few weeks for myself over the break is going to reinvigorate me. I've said that a few times tonight. I feel like I really need it. Stepping away and playing as many, big games as I did. Because I have not been enjoying Revenant. I'll be honest. I have played less of Revenant than I have any season since... God, I don't know how far back you have to go.
I mean, for me, it's probably since before we started the show, to be honest.
I have to probably go all the way back to Black Armor, or excuse me, Joker's Wild to find a season that I played this little. Even seasons I haven't liked, like Plunder, I still felt like I wanted to go in there. I wanted to get my weapons crafted. I wanted to check out the story. And they nailed this in this post. There were reasons to tune in weekly. There were reasons for me to come play the game, even if it was only for 1 or 2 days a week. There were still reasons for me to come do it.
Right.
You know, I told you guys that I'm pretty open with y'all. I've been going through some personal and professional things this year. You know, Destiny has long been kind of my safe zone. It's been my escape from the real world, and it's felt less and less like an escape because it felt more and more like a chore to come in and try and keep up with stuff. And I wasn't having the joy I was having through a lot, and that's why I was so pleasantly surprised by Into the Light. I did nothing but play Destiny for like 3 months. That's the only game I wanted to play from like beginning of April when they started showing us all that stuff until, God, I'd say like mid-July. That's like all I wanted to play. And it helped that nothing was really coming out either.
Right.
But, you know, then we start getting into the fall, and when you have kind of lackluster content, or even content that isn't necessarily bad, it's just not engaging to me. It was like, oh, it was really easy for me to put this down and go play Metaphor and go play Dragon Age and check out a little bit of Stalker. And no, now I'm in Indiana Jones. Like, I was just talking with Ronnie today. Shout out Ronnie, by the way. Was talking with him just this afternoon about Path of Exile and about Indiana Jones and about Marvel Rivals. And like, I'm having this great time playing these other games. Like, I'm still having that joy of gaming, just in a different way. I started Baldur's Gate 3 finally, for everyone who keeps asking. I finally started it. It's going to be my slow burn game for probably the next eternity. But I finally started it, and it's like I'm finding my joy elsewhere. Like, I do want to sit down and, you know, I'm going to play some Dawning. I haven't got, apologies, we haven't talked about the Dawning linear yet because I haven't played enough. It was so borked the first few days, and that's the time that I had time to play it. I have to carve out time in like the next 4 days to play some and get some rolls on that. By the time we get to it, yeah, it's going to be out of rotation, but I'm still going to talk about it because I'm still really excited for this linear. And it's, I think that's the biggest thing, is like finding joy again, finding joy in my gaming time. And, you know, it hasn't been the easiest couple of personal years on the personal and professional front. I've been really busy. I've been really sick. My partner and I both been really sick over the last few months. I got very ill over the summer. I know it was coming through on some of the shows. I got very, very ill over the summer, to the point that I was almost hospitalized because I just could not get rid of an infection in my lungs. And, you know, here we are like 4 days before Christmas, and I'm, you know, still setting up job interviews and whatnot. So it's like, that's the other thing is, you know, I'm a contract worker, you know, I work from home, but if I'm back in an office, guess what? If I'm commuting to and from an office, there goes some of my game time every day. If I'm back in an office, guess what? That doesn't mean I can't be like, oh yeah, well, you know, hey, I can kind of like work on this later. Like, no, that means I got to kind of do it like right there because I'm at the office. You start seeing your free time disappear a lot more, and this and that. And it's just like that comes with the territory. Like that is everyday life, and that means like you're picking and choosing a lot more what you're engaging with for after work entertainment and whatnot. So a lot of my live service games just kind of fell off for me this year. I didn't play a lot of Fortnite. I didn't play a lot of Destiny. Funny enough, I played a lot of Call of Duty. I played a lot of Black Ops this fall. A lot. But it was just kind of became my turn your brain off and play some PvP with your friends type game. So I guess I just say that, like, regardless if you're still playing a lot of Destiny, if you're playing other things like Marvel Rivals or Path of Exile, I know those are both really big in our community right now. Man, play what makes you happy. There is nothing wrong with taking a break from the game. And I think that's part of why I'm so upset about weapon crafting, is that was always kind of my fail safe. So to, no pun intended, that I could come in, I could do the story, I could grind up my weapons, and then I could take like the last, 2-3 weeks of a season and kind of just pop in for little maybe, oh, I'm going to go run the seasonal event with a couple friends. I'm going to go do the arenas or a legend battleground or something, maybe the exotic mission with friends. And then I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Not having those makes me not care as much about getting the loot in a looter shooter. And I don't think that's a great place to be in. It makes me treat it more like Borderlands. Like, oh, well, if I get something, I get something. That's not a place I ever want to be with a game that I love. I feel very differently about this franchise than I do about fucking Borderlands.
Right.
Or than I do about like a Path of Exile or a Diablo or something like that. Like, I'm, I still love this game, but I was talking with Dealer last night about this. It's just like, man, I really want to find my joy again. And I'm hoping that Heresy does that for me. New dungeons are I'm always going to be buying these expansions no matter what. I want to play the game. I want to play the expansions. I want to play the dungeons. I want to play the raids. I will always be here for it. I did a Salvation's Edge run last Friday, and that was the most, it took so long because none of us have done it in like 6 months. But that was the most fun I've had playing this game outside of the Vespers Host first weekend.
Dang.
Probably since my first time through Dual Destiny.
Jeez.
I've had that joy again briefly in those moments. So, but my thing about, even dungeons has always been, well, and raids, well, once you get all the loot, you kind of don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
And thankfully, I haven't gotten everything from Salvation's Edge. I still want to keep running Salvation's Edge. I've only gotten 2 weapons to drop for me, and both of them are now crafted because I keep getting those and nothing else. But I want to see, I want activities like that, and just, I feel like we've kind of gotten away from the philosophy that Bungie used to always push, which was, hey, play our game, yes, but you should also be engaging with other things. It's harder and harder to do that now.
Yeah.
From a gameplay perspective, because nothing quite hits like the Destiny crack.
Mm-hmm.
But it's harder to step away now because selfishly, there's no weapon crafting. So for me, from a selfish perspective, it's like, oh, it's a lot harder for me to be able to engage this way.
Right.
Because then I don't want to go play endgame stuff because I feel like, oh, I'm holding my team back if I do that.
Right.
Even though there's options that will always be great, like, oh, do you have, you have Grand Overture? Great. You have, a good Cataphract or a great Edge Transit? Good. You have a Hammerhead? Great. You have these handful of heavies, and it's like, oh yeah, you'll always be useful as long as you have that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, I don't know. That's just kind of where my headspace is at as we go into 2025. For anybody who's kind of wondering why I've seen a little bit more negative lately, part of it is my own personal feelings towards the game. Part of it's just like I'm really looking for some positive stuff. That's why I try to make sure that we highlight the positive stuff, but also like we got to be really real about the state of the game at times. I have not seen the overall game community be this negative in quite a while. Like the Destiny community is always skewed kind of negative when it comes to social media, so I've always tried to tune that out. It just feels like across the board, like content creators don't seem like they're having a great time anymore. Like when Aztecross is starting to explore other games, it's probably not the greatest sign.
Yeah.
And it's just the drop off is wild. Like Destiny fans want to see Destiny gameplay. They don't want to see you play Path of Exile.
Right.
And I'm not saying he's a bad Path of Exile player at all. It's just like the number of views was a wild discrepancy.
Right.
And I've seen that, I've seen that happen with True Vanguard. I've seen it happen with Fallout. Like, Glad had that initially when he started branching out. Gathalion was really afraid to do, he said he was afraid to do it because he went from Borderlands to Destiny. And then when he started leaving Destiny behind, he was kind of afraid to do it. But by then you had such a big audience. It's not like you were a mid-level or a lower level creator who's just tired of covering one game after 10 years.
Right.
So it's kind of where I'm at. Like, and I don't think it's a sin after 10 years to be like, yeah, I'm going to step away for a little bit. So I'm hoping this holiday reinvigorates my love of it. I plan on playing a lot of Dawning and baking some cookies because I really want to get that Christmas tree ornament. I don't know if you guys know this. I love Christmas. I love Christmas tree ornaments. I have a lot of them. I have like 7 ornaments wrapped underneath that Christmas tree right now as Christmas presents to me and Chelsea. So, including a Master Chief and an Xbox that when you press the button, it makes the original boot up sound or it plays the original Halo menu music from the Hallmark store. Very, very big fan of those. I love ornaments. So, I also have the hitchhiking ghosts that sing from the Haunted Mansion. Or excuse me, it's the heads, the singing heads, the bus. I long talk about how I love ornaments. I have one that sits on my desk year round. My beloved Muppet Vision 3D Mickey hat that I got, complete with Waldo the 3D Muppet on the back. I do love my Christmas ornaments. So yeah, play things that give you joy, guys. That's the whole thing here. Yes, it's a Destiny show, but do things that make you happy. Be good to each other. Be better.
Speaking of joy, Josh.
Speaking of joy, Corey.
Are you concerned about the Muppets at Disney?
Oh boy, yes, I'm concerned about the Muppets at Disney.
Okay.
Let me make you my pitch of what the Muppets should do. First of all, you're turning Rock and Roller Coaster into a Muppets roller coaster, which is great, by the way.
I
Love
mean,
that
that's
idea.
fine. I'm worried
Muppet
about,
Vision 3D needs to be moved into the building next to it, though, if you do that.
yeah, save
And I
Muppet
need the
Vision.
Miss Piggy water fountain moved over there. I need Pizza Rizzo to open up over there. Despite how awful it is, I need it opened.
It's not that
Good.
bad.
It's not that good. Also, I'm just gonna say it. Take out the Hall of Presidents in Magic Kingdom. Give me back famous moments in Muppet history.
Yeah, that would be
Famous moments
great.
in American history with the Muppets. Give me that, because the whole reason they couldn't keep doing that show was because the sun just destroyed the puppets.
Yeah.
Give me that back as an actual show. Put the Muppets in the park. You will have people lined up around the block to go see the Muppets.
Yeah, and don't just don't give me
I need it hosted by Sam Eagle.
yeah. I mean, it's right there, man.
Would you like to hear the story of crossing the Delaware from Sam Eagle?
Yes.
What would be the best moments in American history for Sam Eagle to narrate for you?
Oh jeez.
Like a power rankings real fast.
Oh god.
Because I feel crossing the Delaware is pretty high up there.
Yeah.
I feel like the Boston Tea Party's pretty high on there.
Yeah, the Paul Revere ride through.
The Emancipation Proclamation would be pretty great.
Yeah.
Excuse me, not that. The Gettysburg Address. The Gettysburg Address. I need Kermit the Frog reading the Gettysburg Address is what I need.
Man, good times. I was
gonna make a joke that I stopped myself from making because it's borderline insensitive.
Yikes.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. It's something that I definitely would have quipped about if I was playing with certain people.
Oh,
but I'll tell you afterwards instead.
We will put a stop right there, and
yeah, let's put a pin in the Muppets cap.
Yeah.
This went dark really fast.
Yeah, it did. We should probably end on that note.
We should probably end on that note because I could talk about the Muppets for the next 3 hours and not get tired of it. I love the Muppets.
I know.
And it breaks my heart that we're losing them to Monsters fucking Inc., a movie that's 20 years old.
I know. Well, anyways, everybody out there, thank you so much for watching and or listening to Tower Casuals.
For the entire year.
Yeah, the whole year. Big milestones this year for us. Big stuff, Josh.
Big stuff. Huge.
Josh, I appreciate your time and your enthusiasm and your dedication as always.
I appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure this year, regardless of the state of Destiny or Xbox or anything else that we decide to talk about. It's been fun. Enjoy your couple weeks off, and we
very much looking forward to it. It is much needed.
Be back the week of January 7th, which would be the 9th, I think. 10th, one of those Fridays.
I'm looking at the calendar right now. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will be back. We will be back on Friday the 10th.
Yeah. But we will be. We will be hosting the Bossies, and we will be working diligently to make that the best show possible that we can.
Yep, we got the Bossies. There's an Xbox event coming up in January. There's probably a Switch event happening in January.
Yeah. Yep.
We're about to have a very busy January, Corey.
We most certainly are.
Because some of the things I've heard through the pipeline about this Xbox event. Oh boy.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yep. It's gonna be a beefy one, supposedly.
Oh God. Just end.
Yeah. Anyways. Thanks so much for watching and or listening. Everybody have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Happy New Year's, and we will see you.
Happy dawning.
Happy dawning. Yes. Bake those cookies.
Bake those cookies.
We'll see you in 2025. Goodbye, everybody.